Hey everyone, and thank you for joining us on today's episode of Ardmore Connect. My name is Josh Pagan.
And I'm Brian Cronin, and today we have Steve Harvilla from Lower Merion Auto Services, right here in Ardmore as well. Hello, Steve.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How you been?
Everything's pretty good. I gotta say that it's quiet for a little while and trying to figure everything out, and we're figuring it out. So we're doing whatever we need to do to make people comfortable in coming in and get their car worked on while some of them will want to come out, get out of their houses, get the stuff done while they can before they start traveling again. And it's working out. It really is.
That's good. So you haven't really seen much slow down.
We had a good 3 weeks of, really quiet. There was crickets. So that wasn't really good. But we mustered through that, and we're just trying to we do other big things like bigger projects like Jeep builds and older Jaguars and older custom cars and things like that. So that was kind of still in the mix, and we were working on that at the same time. So that kept us busy enough and kept the all the employees busy enough for me to keep them all. So we're feeding off of that in the meantime. And then I did a custom build on a T-Bird that wrapped up around that time. So that could pay the bills, things like that. But it was it's pretty close. It's to the point where if I didn't have really good landlords, things like that, and there would be more problems. But we're getting there.
So it's good. It's good that you guys were able to shift in this time period. Now, was that shift? Are you doing this for yourself, or are you doing this for customers? These custom builds.
No, these are all customers. Customers are finding us through other customers that had it done. You do a couple of Jeeps, and the Jeep guys talk to each other. They wind up coming in and say, "I want this, I want that, we want to lift it, we want to put accessories on it." Then you get some older vehicles that people have been stored. I had one that was stored was 20 some years. He was storing it, and finally decided now's the time to get it redone. So we sat down and we wound up putting a 435 horsepower motor in it, new transmission. We completely redid the whole car, and It's a car underneath. So that turned out really well. And then we moved on to, I have another Jeep here. I have a 62 Lincoln. I have a 62 Cadillac. I have a 75 Impala. Everybody's bringing these things out from these garages, and I want my stuff to be right. So we have that in town to do. So we have projects on the side all the time now, and we do all our regular stuff for everybody day to day, get everybody in, get everybody out, everything.
Have you always done the custom build since the beginning, or is it something you picked up along the way after you opened your business?
It's something that I've always done for 35 years now. But I would normally only take it, I would say December through end of February, because that was kind of our slow time. So I can build that in and keep everybody busy with it, because didn't have enough space to do it constantly, because it does take up a bay. Sometimes it takes up 2 bays, especially when we do we'll do chassis changes, and we'll put 2 cars next to each other and swap parts back and forth, and either make 2 cars or make 1 car out of 2 cars. Kind of wild what we have to do, but we stay busy.
I'm assuming that you've been doing this a lot longer than you've owned your own business.
Yes.
Yeah. Where did this all begin, Steve?
Funny enough, it started in this building. It started in this building in 1984, when I first started for a guy who owned this building and owned this business. And I worked for him for 14 years. And then I left here and went up to Rosemont, opened up Rosemont Tire and Service. And that is now open for 23 years. And then we found out that this guy was going out of the business. So we came back down here about 2011, amidst all of this, and bought this place back, and then have built this place back up again since. So I've been servicing the main line for over 35 years, in only two different places.
Oh, so between Rosemont and Ardmore, which do you find is the more busy? Like, is that the same? Or
Believe it or not, they're almost exactly the same in so many aspects.
Wow.
What is it? So give us a typical day at the business. So you walk in, Monday morning, like for instance today. Give us a typical day of how your day would normally unfold. Do you start with something you had scheduled, or is it automatically new things coming in?
We do schedules, but also we have tons of walk-ins and last-minute stuff. Hey, over the weekend my car didn't start because it's been sitting for 3 weeks or whatever else. They get them towed in. We come into cars that are already here, and then we start diagnosing them and getting it back to the customers and finding out what's going on, and then go through, what are the problems with the car that you're concerned with right now, and what happened when we looked at the car. What did we see? So if we saw something different, say, okay, well, here's something that we saw. You brought it in for something completely different. It didn't start. It won't drive.
Right.
Whatever. We got a Prius in here today that its main battery, the big hybrid battery, is gone. It's missing a cell. So we had to reconfigure some things just to get it to limp mode to run. But you just never know what you're going to find.
I got a question for you in regards to trades in general, like the trades industry. What I keep reading and people are doing is that all the younger generations are not really getting into the trades in general. Do you find it hard for yourself to find good help to work for you at the younger
in this business? It's very, very, very difficult to find people. I belong to a lot of different like the SEMA Association and stuff like that, which is worldwide. And there has been a problem with employment and talent for a really long time. And I've been voicing it for a long time at the same time, especially around this area. It's very tough in the main line and vicinities right around here for some kid to actually go to shop class or something like that. It's like non-existent anymore, and they took that out. They need to put it back in, because there's a lot of people out there, kids that are coming, they're graduating and all that they're not meant to be, rocket scientists and doctors, just not. And some people work really good from their brain to their hands, and some don't. But the ones that do, and they really get it, they really get it. And I think that there's families out there that are missing out the fact that, their sons and daughters, my daughter even, turns a wrench every once in a while. And she wanted to go to school to do it. So it's kind of, I think everybody should know it, one way or another. They did away with all the auto shops and the, machine shops and the wood shops and things like that. And it's stuff that people need to know. They need to, have the background at least to be able to do something for themselves and work with their hands. Because in times like this, when everybody's shut down, well, what do you do? There's only so much internet you can do, or desk work or whatever else, but you could be accomplishing things, and these guys, they were not out of a job, not one day.
I tend to agree with you on that. And if you look back at the STEM movement several years ago, there was a lot of people that were not entering into that field, and then they pushed very hard to get the STEM program and the STEAM program at the top of people's lists, and now it's just a regular thing. And Brian, I don't know if we ever discussed it on here before, but I personally think there needs to be some sort of reform to the school programming, because you have people like me, for example, who can't do chemistry, but I'm great at like simple mathematics and, selling things. And I think it needs to be geared towards people and what they're interested in, versus just here's a bunch of information that you probably won't ever use, and go out there and good luck to you. So I kind of agree with you, Steve. I think they need to be doing something in order to get people into the field and getting out there, because you're going to start seeing tradespeople teeter down, and really, we really need those in society to make sure that we're able to sustain what we're doing.
Yeah,
especially if you get a blowout. Like, no matter where you are, you should be able to change a tire. I mean, it's not rocket science. At least
Yeah,
I mean, but you never know.
I mean, no offense to dads out there, and my dad taught me how to change a tire, but I mean, people should really know how to do these things. It goes, hand in hand with knowing your taxes as well. I mean, these are things that you actually need in your day-to-day life. I don't need to know calculus. No offense to people that use that every single day, but I didn't go to school for 3 years for that. So I agree with you, Steve. I think more people need to be entered into this field at a younger age.
If nothing else, if they're just open to it and have one class, and then they may realize that, you know what, I get it. It's really like, I actually get that. I don't get law. I don't get whatever. It would make a difference, and I think it would help a lot of families with expectations of their children. Wanting them to be doctors, lawyers, and Indian chiefs. It's just you need people in different places. God has given talent to everybody different for a reason.
Yep.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that.
What was one of the biggest challenges that you faced when you opened up your business?
You kind of had like a little bit of like help learning the industry first, but what was that like? Oh, time to jump into this. What was the hardest thing at that point?
I think the most difficult point is when you have to do all the jobs at one time. You have to do all the accounting. You have to do all the paperwork end of it and everything else. I've always been blessed with the fact that I could fix anything. Whatever it comes in here, I can fix it. And some weird stuff has come in here, but it's with everything. And then you have to do all the marketing, and you have to do all the everything else that goes along with it. And times change consistently, and times change real fast sometimes, like what's happening right now. So you better adapt and overcome somehow. Otherwise, you're out on the street.
Yeah, I agree with that. You have to like really go with the times, because if you're not, I mean, unless you get lucky enough that you can hire someone to give you like a coach or to work alongside with you, I think maybe it's the other option. Other than that, I really think it's hard for anybody to just start a business. And
yeah, I mean,
you have to do.
They're not teaching you how to, you learned how to fix cars and fix anything that rolls in the shop, but what happens when you have something going on with your accounting and you're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. I mean, that's definitely not easy. I think all of us being business owners, we can sit there and say, yeah, taxes are not easy.
Yeah, I had to learn QuickBooks real quick.
I mean, the other day you just had like an internet issue where you couldn't even get your internet to work.
And then like, I don't know how to fix this thing. I can fix a car, but the internet, come on, what are you talking about?
And that's what it comes down to,
Yeah.
I do know a little bit of something about Steve that most people don't know, or some people don't know. Steve's side hobby, I want to say a hobby that he wants to do professional. You are a race car driver. Am I correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
How did you get in that? Obviously,
I've always wanted to do that. And I think I actually went and started to work for a place that was a Goodyear place, for the sheer fact that I knew Goodyear was on race cars and NASCAR. And I always wanted to do it. I don't know why. Don't ask me why. Just when, you have that want and a desire, and it was given to you, I just went after it, and I wind up being on Bobby Gerhardt's race team. He's a 9-time winner Daytona. And after, I guess it's been like 26 years, 27, maybe 28 years, I have been on and off with his race crew, and I've been the tire guy. I've been gas man, primarily the gas man. I set everything up. I build the cars, transport them, hence, back and forth to Florida all the time. and done all that. So eventually I wanted to actually drive. I went to him and said, listen, I want to drive now. So there was a series that was out, because you have to go through a stepping series. You just can't, go into the Phillies and say, listen, put me at bat. Yeah. Sure. You're going to have to go through AAA, AA, so they have the Super Cup Stock Car Series. So I started off in that. And then the next thing is to do the ARCA Series. So right now I'm trying to get into a car to do the ARCA Series right now, which is a stepping stone, which is NASCAR. NASCAR owns ARCA now, and the Truck Series, Xfinity Series, and the main series. So I'm involved in it still to this day, but I really just want to, love climbing in a car and go racing.
What's that like? When you first get in there, pedal to the metal, like what's that? Is it adrenaline? Like what gets you fueled?
Believe it or not, I get into the car and I completely calm down.
Yeah.
And you are strapped in from top to bottom. You have what's called a containment seat. Now you have to have, so the containment seat even comes to your peripheral on each side, and it holds your helmet pretty much. So nothing can move, and you can't. And you also have a Hans device on, a head and neck device, which goes over your shoulders, and then it clips by tethers, if you will, to your actual helmet in the back of the helmet, so your head can't whiplash forward.
Okay.
There's a lot of safety stuff that's on it, and when you climb into this seat, you are literally being held, because you have rib restraints and stuff like that are in there. You can't just get out of the seat. You literally have to twist your body around to get out. But it is a containment seat, and if you get in an accident, it's meant to do exactly what it says. It contains you. It doesn't allow you to fly around the car, hit yourself on the roll cage, anything like that. Yeah.
It sounds like it's more safe than a regular car.
Yeah.
It is much more safe than a regular car. Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually heard, not just with racing, but like some of these extreme sports, when people strap themselves in, they just become so focused on what it is they need to do that everything else just kind of blends away. And that is something, I've never personally experienced in that type of situation, but it just sounds like such a great time, especially if it's something you love to do.
Yeah, it is. It's something that you can't, I can't express it enough. But I really enjoy it.
I think the closest I've ever been to something like that is riding on my bicycle down a hill.
How can we find you though? How can we see some of your races? Can we find you easily?
Super Cup Stock Car Series still show it. Back in 2016, I did 2 races. One in Southern Virginia and the other one in Western Pennsylvania.
Did you place?
I'm sorry?
Did you place during those races?
No, they crashed me out of both of them.
Oh no!
Have you ever raced that? Is it Pocono Raceway?
I've been to Pocono Raceway many, many times. I've been on the racetrack. I have taken cars around the racetrack, but I never raced in an actual sanctioned event.
Gotcha.
There.
That's a dangerous track, to my understanding. I think they were talking about shutting it down.
I don't know if they're going to shut it down. They may pull it back to one time a year, but it's called a tricky triangle for a reason. I mean, it's got 3 different turns on it, and different backs on each turn, and different angles on each turn. Mm-hmm. So setting the car up is the most aggravating thing you can ever do.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because normally you can set up for 2, but then the third one you can't. And it only has 3 turns, doesn't have 4 turns like most. And you have to be able to have the car flat enough to be able to turn, but still be able to turn. But then when you have banking, you can use the banking at the same time. And then you have to have high speeds going down the long pond straight. So it's really difficult to set a car up for that.
We were there last summer for, I want to call, is it a route? It was one of the races, and in the first lap, there was a massive crash that shut them down for about 45 minutes.
Yeah, well, that happens a lot, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they literally started, they went around the first bend, got to the second one, and 5 cars flipped over the side of it.
Yeah.
So,
that sounds about right.
and then
I've
that
seen
was
that.
that was an hour and a half of just sitting there watching this, going, "Oh my goodness, that was the first turn." So
Yeah.
my hat's off to them. My hat's off to you for actually getting in there and doing something like that.
Yeah.
What is the worst? What's the most scariest track you've been on?
Ooh, good question.
I would say the fastest one I've been on was probably Jennerstown. It's in Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is just because I mean, what defined the track as being fast?
It's a very fast track, and yet it's a small track. They call it a short track, but it's got longer straights to it. So you can build up in a matter of split seconds. You're up to 100 something miles an hour, and then you're back down to 40, 50 miles an hour to be able to make the turn, so the tires just don't wipe out. And then you're going to have to blast it back up to 110, 115 miles an hour, and then stop it back down. So your brakes has a lot to do with it. Your setup is really like 100% of whether you're going to get around that track fast.
I want to bring it back to your business.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a particular case or client or something that came in that almost like stumped you, and you were kind of like, how did the customer do this to this car? Type of a scenario that you think is hysterical? You don't say any names.
I don't know if I can come up with one. I mean, I've seen a lot of really crazy stuff. Anywhere from, they were driving a car one day and it didn't work, and they brought it in, and we have nests of animals inside there that just ate the wiring harness, that we had to rebuild the whole wiring harness, or things like that. And then you have the ones where you drove through what? it's just like, well, okay. And we find water places that water is never supposed to be, and mud places. Like, how do you get mud there? Underneath your carpet where all the computers are, stuff like that. It's the craziest stuff. So, and then people say, well, I never got water in my car, and you pull the carpets up and there's an inch of water underneath it. I've had people that went through the Ford. Would you drive through down in like Clydewood and all that kind of stuff, and I don't know if they opened the door or what, but then a rush of water comes inside there, and there's electronics inside there, and shorts everything out, and it gets towed to us. So then we have to go through all of it and find out what parts affected, all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of I've run into some crazy things over the years. Yeah.
Start a series called "Look What Rolled into the Shop Today."
Yeah. I have a Jeep right now. I took the cover off of the front differential, and pure clean water came out of that, and it's supposed to be filled with grease. I don't even know where the grease went. It was, and everything inside of it, all the gears, the ring and pinion, the side gears, rusted completely.
It sounds like they had it like left in some like creek somewhere.
That's what I said. I said, did you stuff it inside of a creek and just leave it there for 10 years?
No. Sponsored by Jeep.
Right.
I got to ask you a question. So you've been in Ardmore, obviously, a long time. Do you also live in Ardmore?
I grew up in Ardmore, yeah.
Okay.
What is, obviously, aside from your own business, but what is your favorite place to go to in Ardmore? What is your favorite business in Ardmore?
Well, there's a lot of great places in Ardmore. Ardmore has just really just expanded out and really been the place to be. I absolutely love a lot of the different restaurants, and the people are just great. They're just great. I mean, I've seen Ardmore go through a lot of different changes over the years, and this is at the height of what Ardmore is. And now I understand why my parents moved in here, 56 years ago, and it's a really nice place. There's no reason to ever want to go into the city. It's got everything right here, and the culinary is fabulous.
Do you have a favorite spot you go to for lunch?
We go to Ardmore Pizza a lot, because the guys
Okay.
like, a lot of different stuff, but
Mhm.
I would say that's a lunch place.
Yep.
And, we go to a couple different Chinese places like the Golden Bowl and things like that. But I'd say, for dinner, we go to Morocco, which is a great place to go. John Henry's we've gone to, a lot of different ones. I mean, I can't even name them all.
We just had John.
Like Ripplewood is great great food there, and the
I've seen you
Bercy.
there. I've seen you there plenty of times at Ripplewood.
The local watering hole.
That's just a great place. I mean, they really got quality food.
So, do you have a piece of advice that you want to give to an aspiring business owner if someone was just starting their business in hardware, saying, "Hey, we're going to open up a business"? Do you have a piece of advice you give to somebody?
I would say, just ask the other store owners that have been there for a really long time. What do you think of my product or what I'm going to do or whatever, and just to kind of see where you fit in it, and then do your research. Who's your competition, and what's your end goal. How long are you going to be here? Is it a short-term thing? Is it a long-term thing? Is it something you're digging roots and you want to build this thing really well?
Right.
I say all the time, I'm not in it for the short game. I'm in it for the long game.
Right.
So you got to be good to the people. You got to be honest. You got to be honest with yourself at the same time. And you got to be fair with everybody, including yourself, and
Right.
And get what you need to stay in business. Rents are high around here. Things are quite expensive, but everybody knows that.
Mm.
Yeah.
And you just have to be smart about it.
Be realistic, believe in yourself, actually understand your business model, and don't be afraid to ask other people. I think that's pretty good advice. Yeah. Yeah, it seems like a lot of the business owners in Ardmore are very helpful. So anybody out there who's considering it, just go ask somebody. They would love to help you.
Sure.
Do you see silver lining at the end of all this for yourself?
The coronavirus or the COVID-19 shutdown?
I do. I see it ending a lot sooner than everybody's expecting, and I do think that a lot of truth is going to come out. The things that we've been told throughout this whole thing, and the changing goalposts of when we're opening, what's going on with the government, things like that. Even our governor, and we're going to find it all out. It's going to come out.
Yeah.
But we just need to hang on right now and just do the best you can and use talents that God gave you.
I agree with that.
I definitely don't want to take too much of your time. I want to thank you for spending some time with us today, Steve.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you asking.
Oh, definitely, without question.
Of course, yeah. No, Steve, it was great to have you here. And for anybody watching, episodes come out every Tuesday at 2:00. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to join us this week on Ardmore Connect. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, Steve.
Take care, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. It was a great time. Can't wait to see you in person.